Welcome into Senior Bowl preview day 2, and we are pumped. We are sunburnt, but we are hydrated and ready to go. Stony Keeley right here at Stony Keeley on X, Sobros Network, and of course, stackingtheinbox.com for both of us. And we just sent out at stackingtheinbox.com his O-line depth piece. We also had video of our day 1 review sent out to stackingtheinbox.com subscribers. If you have any questions about certain candidate or certain draft prospects, put them in the chat. But today's show is, of course, is brought to you by Lions Ford, lionsford.net, Lions Ford of Lewisburg, Tennessee. All Senior Bowl content is sponsored by Lions Ford. And if you're looking at getting a new or pre-owned vehicle, hop in my DMs or email me, and I'll get you hooked up with the people at Lions Ford. I know them personally. I kind of have an in with the owner, Richard Lyons. However, they're not your typical dealership. They always give you every discount you qualify for and give you the most bang for your buck on your trade-in vehicle. You won't regret doing business with them. That is a guarantee and a promise.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone's dinging in the middle of your ad read, but it sounds like we are going to sync up with TD today at some point.
All right, there you go. We're going to be putting stuff together with TD later today. Teron Davenport, of course, for those Titans fans that are in the know. And of course, you guys are all in the know on TD. We want to talk about today kind of like our approach from day 1 to day 2, and we're also going to talk about our breakout candidates. So let's start with our breakout candidates. We got one each from each team. Mine, to no one's surprise, probably is they're both wide receivers, and I'm going to start with the national team. Jacob Cowing is a bounce back candidate. He was getting open, but he had a real up and down day when it came to one-on-ones.
Some drops,
concentration drops, it felt like. But he was still getting open. He was still being the explosive off-the-line zone beater that we have known him to be. So today would be a good day, I think, and I think it's going to happen, is that he is going to bounce back today.
He's just got to put it together, catch the balls. And like you said, there were a couple of times we were catching up on some of the film last night, watching it. We kind of thought, oh, man, the play is there. You just got to hold on to the ball. And if he starts connecting on those plays, then I think you'll start to see some of that buzz come back.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that when you talk about a guy like Jacob Cowing, he has all the tools and I saw it on tape. I saw Jaden Reed.
Yeah, sure.
Now, Jaden Reed he got better as the week went on last year, but he didn't have as low of lows that Jacob Cowing suffered in day 1. So let's see, to me, bounce back candidate for the national team, Jacob Cowing. Who do you have on your list?
Well, I just, to polish that thought off, I haven't heard anybody mention Jacob Cowing. I mean, it's just like there's no buzz whatsoever down here about him. From the national team, I go with Jordan Morgan. I know we said the Jordan Morgan
hype
train
dead.
is dead, but I was talking to our buddy James Foster about him, and he said, get ready to learn guard pretty much after the measurements came out. And then he goes out there, and the practice was just, it wasn't as bad as somebody like Tanner Bortolini, who just got his shit kicked in yesterday, but he was a guy that needed this week to kind of put the questions about his size and length to bed. And he hasn't done that yet, but I still think back to his tape. It's easy when we get down here to get sucked into a vacuum and you're just looking at this stuff, these practices on their own, and say, this guy sucks. But I was sitting in bed last night, just lying awake, staring at the ceiling. And I thought, you know what? The tape is good. The tape is good for Jordan Morgan. So that guy is still in there somewhere. I'm hoping that he can kind of turn it around and put on a better performance starting today.
Well, I'll look forward to hearing what you have to say about Jordan Morgan later today.
I'll just come back and just be completely depressed. Just be like, it's back off, guys.
Going to the American team, I think that when you talk about wide receivers that did not live up to the hype, I would say would be the correct way to put it.
Yeah.
A lot of people do agree with this, and Xavier Leget-the-Ball, that's how we say it.
Leget-the-Ball.
Had a lot of hype. Dane Brugler kind of echoed my sentiment, is that it just didn't seem like there was anything there.
Yeah.
Not a lot of finish to it. Didn't know wow plays or anything. And we know that Nate Wiggins locked him up, when South Carolina and Clemson played. So there wasn't anything that really stood out to me. I mean, he had his ups, right? I mean, every wide receiver in one-on-ones is going to get theirs. But when it came down to it, he was totally unimpressive as a whole.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how I look at it. I know a lot of these people, and maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I don't just look at 1v1s. I look at 1v1s plus, team drills, 6-on-6, 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s. I look at it all.
Yeah.
And to me, he was wholly unimpressive. And Dane Brugler even said last night that not only was he unimpressive, but that he was surprised when there was even any first round buzz, but he was also very surprised there was second round buzz on Xavier Legette Ball. So to me, that should tell you everything you know. One of the best to do the game doesn't really see what everybody else tends to see about Xavier Legette. So to me, he's a guy that you need to get. He needs to improve his draft stock because I think he hurt it more than he helped it.
Yeah, he was a guy that I was excited to watch coming down here. I haven't done a lot of tape study on him just yet. I popped on the Clemson tape, and it's funny because you can look at his game log, and the game against Clemson, not his best in terms of yards per catch. The game against Georgia, not very good in terms of his yards per catch. So it's like against good defensive backs, he's not producing as much. And I saw that with Nate Wiggins, and the Clemson defense was like, this is the guy that everybody's calling the next AJ Brown. I just didn't see it. I was excited to watch him this week, but I just don't think the way I would put it is I don't think anything just really flashes, just really pops about him so far anyway.
Yeah, like with Malachi Corley, because I kind of put them in the same boat, and I went back and watched some stuff that I had with Malachi Corley. I watched some other highlights from the practice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I see more of the common comp I see for Malachi Corley, which is so funny because both these wide receivers that are being comped to these two wide receivers came from the same draft class.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people say that's Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I see that comp now after I went back and watched some stuff. So I am interested to see a little bit more Malachi Corley throughout the week. But again, he didn't really just jump off the page to you. His size or the way he's built does. Both these players are built in unique ways. They're very thick, very, very either compact and stuff. So like, to me, it's like, I see the physical attributes that everybody's talking about, but I want to see them get some yards after catch. Yeah. Like Malachi Corley, every time he caught the ball, and he may have made a diving catch here and there, he was done. Like there was no yards after catch. And Xavier Legette, I just don't remember him catching a lot.
Malachi Corley is like Conference USA, Deebo Samuel.
Yeah. So I got to see more from both those guys. But I want to talk a little bit about how we approach day two.
Yeah.
Because I think that for lack of a better term, I wouldn't consider us this, but we don't, I mean, maybe you could call us just observers.
Yeah.
But our scouting philosophies from day one to day two kind of shift. So like for me, yesterday, for an example for you guys, because I like to give a peek behind the curtain here. Because if you don't know process and our thought process, you may not understand our opinions or evaluations of prospects, right?
Sure.
So like Quinyon Mitchell. I'm done caring about Quinyon Mitchell. And that's not because he was bad, obviously, because he was fantastic. What more can I gain from looking at Quinyon Mitchell specifically? Now, can I gain something from the wide receivers that line up on That changes my opinion more on the wide receiver than it does on Quinyon Mitchell if they were able to catch a pass on him.
Yeah.
So for me, that is where I am at in like looking at these guys like Dylan Lobb, running back out of New Hampshire. My big concern for him was his pass blocking game. I did not get to watch the pass blocking drills for the running backs yesterday, so that's something I want to watch today, but I may have to sacrifice watching the 1v1. So it's like you have to pick your poison and go in with a plan, because if you're going in half-cocked, you're going to do yourself a disservice. So like today I'm going in, I'm watching Dylan Lobb's pass blocking.
Watch a little Rasheen Ali while you're watching, and maybe some Kamani Vidal.
I want to see if Cam Hart and Max Melton continue their ascent from yesterday. You can't just stop at the Senior Bowl when you're those kinds of fringe guys. And then a guy that I didn't even realize was even down here until I heard other people talking about him. And I haven't really heard like the excitement about him, but Kyrie Jackson out of Oregon, he's 6'3".
Yeah.
He's lengthy, he's got range, and that's a guy that I should have already picked up on because I'm big in the length and stuff. So Kyrie Jackson is a guy that I want to watch today. It's not really, I'm really focused on the wide receivers in this group because I don't know if there's going to be a lot of movement on the national team as far as wide receivers besides Jacob Cowing.
Yeah.
And maybe Malachi Corley. But I want to see what these defensive backs do, and specifically the running backs. So, like, my philosophy for the national team has totally changed.
Yeah, the national team, watching the offensive line, I came away from practice thinking this is a pretty good group, but then I watched the American team practice and they just blew it away. So there's a part of me that wants to see, like, can this first group kind of ratchet up the intensity? Because the national team, or excuse me, the American team, the practices yesterday, the offensive line, defensive line, one-on-ones were so intense that I'm kind of looking at, okay, this first group that goes out there about an hour from now, actually, like, can they bring it a little more? And I'm the same way you are with Quinyon Mitchell. That's how I am with Jackson Powers Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm like, buddy, you just take the rest of the week off. You can go back home. Like, you're good at this point. But there are several guys that I kind of want to see the American team. These guys were getting coached up like crazy, and I didn't notice that in the first practice. It kind of just felt like going through the drills, next man up, not a lot of feedback. So for me, it's watching the guys who can take the coaching, who are getting the extra attention, and how do they apply that into the drills. In the American team, I'm thinking about Javon Foster, Tyler Guyton. Both of those guys were getting coached up quite a bit yesterday, and specifically Javon Foster with his hand usage. I don't know who the offensive line assistant is for the Steelers, but he was out there like every snap. He would walk up and give guys feedback and stuff like that. So for me, it's about that kind of stuff. Like, okay, we established a baseline yesterday for the physicality and the intensity. We got our feet beneath us, so to speak. Let's really get into the weeds and iron out some of these technique issues that some of these guys have. And I want to see who's doing that, who's applying it, and who is successfully executing it.
That's interesting because you're right. Because we talked about it last night. The group surrounding, like the coaches and the scouts and all the stuff surrounding that particular one-on-one drill was the biggest crowd by far.
Yeah,
and it's the biggest crowd by far for 2 years I've been here at Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
But leading up to that, it felt like there was a little bit of aimlessness among the drills. Like it wasn't as tight as the first team.
Yeah.
But the intensity definitely overshadowed. You know, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and I think what they do today can paint yesterday in a different light, because I watched the offensive defensive line one-on-ones and came away thinking the defensive line looked pretty powerful. We came home and kind of caught up on all the other coverage from our colleagues that are down here and found that a lot of people were really disappointed in the defensive line. But I think if you watch the drill, all of these guys are doing the same move. And I had said to you, I don't know what's going on in this drill, but maybe these guys are being coached to just bull rush these offensive line, because they kind of, maybe they're trying to evaluate who's
play strength,
who's strong, which offensive lineman can absorb blows, can anchor, that sort of stuff. And so maybe that is a coaching technique that they're applying, that everybody thinks, oh, these guys have no pass rush moves whatsoever. We saw like 3 or 4 spin moves the entire afternoon, and that was it. But if we
they worked, which was funny.
Well,
because I mean, the spin moves that we saw last night, because we rewatched the one-on-ones when we got back for the defense and the offensive line.
Yeah.
And when you get to the American team, which was all bull rush, the few times you saw the spin move, it worked.
Yeah.
So that to me kind of echoes your sentiment that they were being coached to do something totally different.
So if we go out there today and all of a sudden the defensive line, are, they're throwing swim moves at the offense, they're rip moves, all kinds of stuff, then I think you can go back and reevaluate yesterday and say, okay, that was just a drill. We shouldn't necessarily hold that against these defensive linemen. So that's something else I'm looking for too, is like just paying attention to what exactly they're doing in the drills.
Looking at the American team, a kind of shift that I'm going to do with them is that I have to watch the one-on-ones. I missed the one-on-ones yesterday. So I have to make sure that do not miss the one-on-ones, because that's where everybody is pointing to Ladd McConkey as this route running savant. And I need to see these defensive backs get up on Ladd McConkey, because every clip that I've seen where he's turning someone into burnt toast, they're like 5 yards down the field.
Yeah.
That's what you need to see in day 2, is these defensive backs like Andrew Phillips, Nehemiah Pritchett, and Chris Abrams-Drain get up on the Ladd McConkey and make him earn some of these catches and make him earn some of these routes that he's getting open on. And I look at like Andrew Phillips, Nehemiah Pritchett, Chris Abrams-Drain. I'm zoned in on them today, especially Chris Abrams, because he was being talked about all over that stadium.
Yeah, and
I just didn't notice it.
Yeah, the buzz was, I think it was he on Johnny Wilson and just completely locked Johnny Wilson down.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I know Andrew Phillips made a couple of really good plays in the slot too, just kind of like stacking guys up, keeping them from getting into their release and eliminating them as an option for the quarterback. So I've watched a little bit of his tape as well. I think he's an intriguing guy. I don't know that he makes a lot of sense for the Titans.
Yeah.
Like, they seem to have their slot corner locked down, but then again, the new coaching staff may look at Roger McCreary differently. I don't know. So maybe you shouldn't rule him out altogether, but he's just a guy that's fun to watch.
Well, he does have bigger arms, and he is 5'11", so they may view him as an outside guy.
Yeah, he's longer, but he's a little lanky.
Yeah. Tyrese Knight is the last guy I really want to focus in on, because I
noticed him yesterday.
I noticed him a few plays, but it was so tough because there were so many. First off, when Johnny Wilson's on the field, you just can't take your eyes off Johnny Wilson.
Frankenstein's monster.
But it was so tough to really appreciate what the defense was doing, because I was so focused in on these wide receivers and the team drills. Yeah. So what I'm looking for from Tyrese Knight is I'm looking for his communication as a middle linebacker. Okay. Like, how is he commanding the defense? How's he diagnosing plays? What's he doing? It's not necessarily the strength and the speed I'm looking for. It's the mental aspect of it, because he has played for UTEP. He has kind of switched around on everything. So I am kind of like zoned in on some Tyrese Knight as far as on the team drills. One-on-ones, not really interested in, but team drills is where I'm focused on a player like that.
Yeah. As far as the we're talking national team?
American team. We kind of did both, so it's not.
Yeah, the American team, I want to watch some more Charles Turner III.
Yeah.
And we were watching him last night, and I caught it in the practice. The way I phrased it to you is that I don't think any of the offensive linemen on the American team had a bad practice. There were a couple of guys that I thought, oh, they're okay. They're all right. And even them, like Javion Cohen and Layden Robinson came to mind. But even then, when we went back and watched the some of the plays, the cut-ups of Javion Cohen, we're kind of like, dang, like he's got a little bit of punch to him. Like, it was a really good group, really good practices. But Charles Turner III, the stuff that I didn't catch live was just how like good he was at getting his hands inside and just kind of neutralizing that bull rush and getting a wide base, sinking his hips, just kind of like to be a center a little bit smaller than the guys around him, to just set the way he did and not give up ground or give up ground slowly was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, he's 6'3", 300 pounds. So he's in that Aaron Brewer range. Not just kidding. He's got 33 6'8" arms, 9 3/8 hands, and 83 3/8 wingspan. So he's got a good wingspan and everything. And I'm with you. We were watching it, and I was like, because you didn't really say anything. You mentioned Charles Turner once before we started watching it at some point during the day.
Yeah.
And then we're sitting there watching, and every time that he is on the screen and he does something, I turn to you and I'm like, this dude's pretty good.
Yeah.
like he's pretty legit. So I'm interested to hear, when you're looking at Charles Turner today, from the snap to the block, how he's looking and how he's handling all that.
Yeah, and I think it's something worth reiterating. I do feel like the Titans are going to be in the market for a center this offseason.
Yeah, because Lloyd Cushenberry is probably the best center available.
Yeah.
And unless you're going to put Daniel Brunskill there and, eliminate a possible draft need or like push that draft need down because Brunskill's there, but someone other than Aaron Brewer is going to be there.
Yeah, and there's a group of guys here that would make a lot of sense and probably won't cost a lot of draft capital.
Yeah.
I don't think Charles Turner III is going to be a.
I don't know if he keeps stacking days like this.
That's true.
I guess you got to go now. Have you watched Charles Turner film yet?
I've watched him when I'm scouting like Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels, and Brian Thomas Jr.
So now you're gonna probably have to go see if the film matches what the Senior Bowl is, right?
Yeah. Well, I was saying like there are times that I knew he was going to be at the Senior Bowl, so I might just take a peek, or if I'm watching a play again, I'm like, let's just rewind that and see what Charles Turner III did on that play, because I knew he was going to be here. And it's the same kind of thing. Like, he seems like a pretty consistent guy to me.
Gotcha. So CT3. Is that what we're going to call him? CT3?
CT3.
All right. We just came up with that on the spot. That's why we're the best in the biz. Kyle R. is correct. The Mizzou guys did have a good day yesterday overall. Darius Robinson, Javon Foster, and Chris Abrams-Drain. I didn't see a lot of Cody Schrader, so I can't speak to Cody Schrader. But I will say the first three have a lot of hype to live up to in day two.
Yeah.
Darius Robinson, apparently, you got to take Jim Nagy quotes with a little grain of salt, because he does like to pump up everybody to the nth degree. But apparently, one of the coaches gave Darius Robinson such a good comp yesterday that it would almost influence everybody's mock drafts and put him in round one. So let me say this. I really liked Darius Robinson. He was one of the guys one of my guys I was eager to watch coming here. I've seen the clips. I did not watch it live, but you spoke very highly of Darius Robinson. He's built like you want an edge built, and he looks fast and violent. And so I'm eager to see, though, outside of the bull rush, what can he bring to the table these next 2 days?
Well, he was one of the guys that hit a spin move.
He did hit a spin move, and it worked
yesterday, and it worked. But you talk about length and frame, like, he looks like the prototype. He was one of the names that I wrote down in case we made it to guys outside of the positions we watched yesterday that sparked our interest, and he's one of them. I could absolutely see him really soaring up draft boards with a good week down here, because he certainly looks the part.
That will do it for us. We're going to get out of here so we can go to McDonald's and get out to the stadium and get some more coverage going and everything. Stoney Keeley at Stoney Keeley on X. I'm Zach at FWordsPod on X. StackingTheInbox.com. Make sure you're a subscriber to that. We got articles that come out. We're going to have 2 a day. Video content included in that. And then SoBrosNetwork.com to get some more general thoughts that you had that you weren't able to fit everywhere else. Practice notes and stuff. Kingston Group, BuildKG.com. Seekers Beverages are normal sponsors here on a football show. But, of course, our travel was paid for Lions Ford. Family-owned, family-operated, just like most of our sponsors. And I can tell you that they give you all the incentives that you qualify for. They'll give you the most bang for your buck on trades. And if they don't have the vehicle, they'll go find the vehicle for you, whether that's pre-owned or new. They'll go to the ends of the earth to make sure that you are happy. For Stoney, I'm Zach. This has been a football show.